actions.
Aaron's right. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel, and that is not what Kamala.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. LPR. This is Tyler Yonke coming to you on Friday night, episode like 280 something. We'll let some people get into the chat, but I'm really excited about tonight. You know, you see people on the internet and you hear them talk on their own shows. You feel like you know them, and then you don't. So we're gonna bring someone on tonight. We're doing our Friday interviews. Last week we had Michael Oxford. He said, by the way, to tell this guest hello. This guest is Crazy Lady, and that's Village Crazy Lady. She'll talk to you about that. She's been featured, I think she was on Glenn Greenwald's show. Candace talks about her more than she does Charlie Kirk. No, maybe not. Welcome, Mel, Village Crazy Lady. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. You've blown up, and I don't know where you came from. I don't know a lot of your backstory, except we're watching stuff. So I do want you to introduce yourself to people, and then how did this happen?
I know, right? It's funny because I've been on X for 5 years, over 5 years now. So it doesn't feel like I blew up to me. It feels like a long, putting on all the time. But what is funny about X is that you can have a few threads pick up. And the big one for me, the really, really big, well, there was two big ones. There was one that I wrote about Letitia James and some of her kind of campaign finance stuff. So that's prior to a lot of like Israel, Gaza stuff. I wrote about campaign finance a lot, and I did a lot of features, did a lot of digging on that, and those were my threads normally. But I had one about Letitia James that really blew up right when the prosecution of Trump started, right? And it just showed basically how not necessarily that she had, well, some of the stuff certainly was illegal, which no one has wanted to pursue that, but that's a whole different story. But, other stuff was just like, shady campaign finance, the way she was spending money and stuff like that. So I picked up I think at that time I had 20,000. I picked up 30,000 followers in like 2 or 3 days. So it was a lot.
Big.
Yeah. So that took me to 50,000, and then just kind of chugged along. And then last year when Matt Gaetz was nominated, I wrote a thread when I was thinking it was still going to go through. And it's funny, I actually had written it out for, it was styled so you could tell your crazy aunt at Thanksgiving, like, hey, no, he's not a sexual predator. That was the whole idea of it. I wanted to figure out what the hell actually happened, why the DOJ didn't charge him. And I came across this crazy story, just a wild out of a Hollywood movie story. And it was in several different pieces, and I just took the time to kind of put them all together, and it blew up because I just so happened to drop it on the same exact day that he withdrew his nomination or, from consideration, his name from consideration.
Confirmation.
Yep. And it blew up, and that took me from like 60,000 followers, I think, to like 110. It was 50,000 in a matter of less than a week. It was a 50 million impression thread.
And it's coming back. And by the way, I don't mean to say that like, oh, you're coming out of nowhere.
No, I know. because people are like, who are you?
I mean,
Yeah, no.
we're all in our own niche, and then all of a sudden you start to cross paths, and then you're like, oh, this. It's my curiosity with you is how do you do that? And actually, I don't know if it's any advice, but do you have a Substack, someplace? Because I see it on Twitter, and sometimes it's tough. I want to go back and look at it, and then it's threads. Have you thought of it doing anything else?
I have a Substack that I don't
Okay.
ever publish to.
Okay. Well,
I've
then
never
that
put
doesn't help.
any effort into it. And I know I should. Like, I know that you have to, because again, at any time they can take these platforms away from us.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have learned this the hard way. I have been permanently suspended from Twitter twice, and by the
really?
grace of God, got it back. Yeah, once during old Twitter over COVID stuff, and then once because I said something naughty about Joe Biden under Elon, but still, I caught. They said it was a perma-banned, but they gave it back to me after 30 days. So, yeah, but that was kind of like where I came from. But I think more so, I just started standing up against, Zionism and Israel control. I'm a Republican. I'm a registered Republican. I voted Republican pretty much my entire life. The one thing that has bothered me for years, I'm like a Pat Buchanan Republican. That's becoming very cliche to say, but I used to say that even before. But everybody's a Pat Buchanan Republican nowadays.
Right.
But I was one when it actually wasn't really that popular, and it would get you slapped with an anti-Semite label immediately. And so I've always been very conscious of it, but I've always understood that it was the third rail. You couldn't really talk about it. And then after October 7th, 5 days later, October 12th comes around, and the Israeli army starts bragging about how many bombs they've dropped. And something in me just snapped. I was like, I'm done. I'm actually done with this. I think that nothing about this comports with my values. I don't support this. I think it's wrong. I think it's inhumane. I think it's antithetical to everything that America stands for, and I'm just not going to take it anymore. So I just started speaking up, and that is where a lot of the following came from as well. Like all these numbers, because I'm just about to hit 200,000. So that's where a lot of it came from. And then of course, Candace saw me from the Gates thread. She read my Gates thread. And then she just messaged me one day about another investigation she was doing. And we just kind of go back and forth. But we have a very similar curiosity, I think, about we know we're being lied to and we don't trust anything. So we just like to start pulling threads. And so that's when Charlie Kirk was killed. I knew that whatever they were going to tell us, it was going to be bullshit. It's not, and I didn't trust anything. And that has kind of consumed me, I would say, for the last 2 months or so. It's been very troubling.
It has. So you raised, I have all kinds of questions for you.
Sorry.
No. This is fabulous. So let me go back to kind of this Zionism issue that's permeates out there. So very similar to you, at least me growing up, right winger, whatever. But I listen to a lot of talk radio, and it's Salem Network, and it's a lot of propaganda. I would say things about Jimmy Carter. Oh, he wrote a book about, criticizing Israel. He's an anti-Semite. And I would use that as a cudgel. And I look back on it now and I'm just like, oh, geez. So a little bit before, a year or two before October 7th, I was already getting into a different mindset about this. Actually, it's been quite some time for that. So for me, I was there earlier than a lot of people as far as I see, but you were there even earlier. That's, to me, is interesting. So have you been called, because the anti-Semitism label is so easy to just throw around. And it's, I always talked about it like you call someone a Nazi. Now you don't have to have a discussion because they're an evil person, a racist, same thing. But the anti-Semitism definition is so vast. So have you been getting that for quite some time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was an early Trump support. Well, I say early, but, 2016, middle, summer, when I realized he was going to, by Super Tuesday, I was like, all right, I guess, I'll vote for him. I didn't think he was going to win. Mm-hmm. But when it came around, and I actually was like, when late October, because have a degree in political science. I follow all these things. I get really into the charts. I mean, I love election season. It's like my favorite. Wow. I love pulling out charts, and I love getting down in the nitty gritty into the counties, you know, and doing comparisons. This past one, I did a huge thread in which I went through every single swing county in every swing state, looking at their early voting numbers. I called it. I think it was 2 days prior to the election. I said, he's going to win. It's not going to be close. And and I was right. I called it right down to the county. Every single county I called right. So I get really into it. But so, you know, when you're an early Trump supporter, you've been called everything that there is to be called, right? So, but and then I was a COVID dissident, right? So by the time I got to COVID, I was already an anti-Semite, a bigot. I hated LGBTQ, all the things. Yeah. Then get to COVID, and I'm a grandma killer. I'm a science denier. Then, so I've already been through all of that. We get to October 7th, and I'm just like, fuck Israel. And then I'm an anti-Semite again. And it's like, I don't care. I really don't care. And I kind of lean into it now sometimes. Because there's nothing you can do. You know, a lot of people get really upset. I know people who they're so bothered by being called that. And, you know, I always just tell them that there's nothing you can do. Once you recognize that this is just a way for them to attack you. If it wasn't anti-Semite, it would be something else, right? You know,
but do you see how, like, side note, 2016, I was going away from the Republican Party, going more libertarian, still very right-wing libertarian. And what did it for me was seeing some of the hypocrisy from the GOP. Not that I cared about like Clinton and Monica, but when something happens, you know, Trump and grabbed by the pussy, suddenly the two sides are switching, and I'm like, I can't. So I left because I was a Ted Cruz supporter.
Okay. Yeah. I was Ted Cruz very early in the primary.
Yeah. So, and kind of a side note there, and I say this often because I think it's fascinating, which is I went to high school with Heidi. So I was high school friends actually with her. There's a more connection there. Mm-hmm. Point is, he is one of the most, he's just a big wanker now. It's like complete, and his, the name calling is embarrassing, and it doesn't do anything anymore. I think so.
He's I remember Ted Cruz. I was like, because he was like brilliant, right? He was very smart, a constitutional lawyer. I think he had clerked for the court. And I was really bothered by a lot of the things that the Obama administration had done, specifically constitutionality goes, you know, especially because it was so kind of opposite of what they said they were going to do. And at that point, I had a little bit of I don't like to say that I'm a libertarian because I am not at all, but I have a little bit of a wild streak when it comes to like whistleblowers, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely, like full protections, everything. And the Obama administration pursued whistleblowers more than any administration ever had, right? What happened to Tom Drake is, to me, one of the most, one of the greatest injustices that our DOJ has ever levied against.
I don't recognize that one. Who was that one? Catch me up.
He's the one under Bush. He did he blew the whistle on an NSA program that was an early Patriot Act program that the NSA had actually designed their own to do mass surveillance technically, but it was going to be all anonymous, right? And there was no way that you could get access to any of the encrypted data unless you had the court order. They built it. It was very cost effective. Then one of Cheney's buddies comes in. They have their own system, which again was not at all. It was totally vulnerable to hacks. And I think it was like 5 times as much money as what it would cost to build. And they're the ones who get the contract. So Tom Drake leaks it to the Baltimore Sun in 2006. And it blows up. And it was a story. It was a big story. It was a little bit of a scandal. Anyways, Bush does not pursue, right? Well, and again, Drake had pursued all of the normal channels and nobody was answering anything. So then he goes to the Baltimore Sun. Obama gets in 2009 and orders his DOJ to go after him, which is just, and it goes all the way to the Supreme Court because they don't want to give Drake any of the discovery that they have on him. They say it's all national security stuff, so he can't even formulate a defense. And it goes all the way up, and he doesn't. They drop most of the charges. I think he has to plead guilty to like one thing, but I'm pretty sure that he forfeited his retirement, and he was a loyal public servant. These are like good people, right? Doing the right thing and getting screwed, especially by Obama, Mr. Hope and change, right?
Peace, Nick.
Right. Just so full of crap. But so, anyways, I was concerned about things like that, and there was more than him. There's a handful. Obviously, we know Assange. We know what Biden did to Snowden. I mean, the targeting of Snowden is just, it's so, to this day, is such a great injustice.
John Kiriakou was another one that they went after.
And now I feel foolish thinking like, oh, I supported Ted Cruz because I thought he was going to be a constitutional. No.
But that's kind of my point there, though, is too, which is the both sides are just hypocritical, and now you're seeing it so much with the policing. You used to, like I said, you call someone a Nazi, and they're all up in arms about that. And now they're doing a lot of the right are doing the same thing. Do you see that this is breaking this down at all? Like you're having an effect? Because I think, like you said, you don't care anymore. And I don't either. And I think a lot of people feel that way. But that does give rise to the actual ones that do hate Jews. Maybe that's you. Maybe it's not. I don't assume that anymore.
I don't hate Jews. No, I don't hate anyone. There are Jewish people who I do not like. Mm-hmm. But it is not because they are Jewish. It is because they are assholes. You know? Same with, I would never, I just don't believe in collective punishment. I think that of course, is antithetical to Christianity. We don't do that. True Christians don't do that. We are taught, we love our brothers and sisters, period. We are all made in the image of God. And so, no, we just don't do that. That said, there are lots of people I do not like. And it just so happens that a lot of them happen to be Zionist Jews who are just, what I've seen is just, and it's not just Zionist Jews, it's a lot of Zionist Christians, people adhering to this really brutal, what I think is very, number one, it's certainly antithetical to Christianity, but it's a very supremacist ideology. And I have serious issues with them. And I think that, I'm sure that there are some people who support Israel and they're not like that. I have no doubt,
Of course, yeah.
But unfortunately, online, those aren't the ones you run into, right?
No, and you don't get good faith discussion with a lot of the prominent ones. So I had done a really deep dive into Leo Frank. You've probably heard about Leo Frank. Okay. So, and I actually interviewed Mary Fagan Keene, who was the grandniece. She wrote a book, and anyway, so I've done a bunch of big podcast diving deep into that. And the interesting thing is, this is before Zionism issue, but you still have it. And so for me, even talking about it, you're like, I say Jew all the time. And it's like, okay, but I'm trying to put some context here. The Israel thing, to me, I've just gone to trying to just say Zionism, right? And just Zionists in general, because it's a mindset. And you what's interesting about the Israel thing is they get all the benefits of, or it's a race, it's a religion. And so if you knock it, it's crazy.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
Yes.
It's all a trap.
It is.
I always say that if I'm talking about Zionists, I'll say Zionists. And if I'm talking about Jews, I'll say Jews. Okay. I don't have any problem saying, Christians or Muslims or blacks or whites or Hispanics or anything like that. I try to be very specific in my wording. So sometimes I'll have some dudes come in and they're like, why don't you just say Jews? And I'm like, because I don't mean Jews. I mean Zionists. Then I'll have some Jews come in and say, why are you saying Zionists? Why don't you just say Jews like you really mean, And I'm like, because when I mean Jews, I'll say it. I'm not afraid of it. Jew isn't a dirty word to me, right? Clearly, you want me to use it as a dirty word. You want me to be the way like the White House press secretary is, where she, calls Chuck Schumer a Palestinian as an insult. But that's just not me. I have no need. If I want to insult a Jewish person, I will just use other words, right? But as far as I'm concerned, if you're a Jew, that's just who you are. It's not really anything more than that, right? But that doesn't really seem to satisfy anyone nowadays.
No, it doesn't. And the only reason I kind of mentioned that too, because I see Ted Cruz. He's on my radar all the time. Just recently, because Tucker Carlson says something, and so it's the inflection of everything's Jew. That's what you mean. And it's like, words matter, especially Ted Cruz as, I think he's even, wasn't he the AG of Texas? I think he's argued before the Supreme Court. He's no dummy, right? He's
No, yeah. I'm pretty sure he clerked for the court. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
The point is, I'm a family law attorney, but either way, I still am an attorney. I know you're with Janine. She's a good attorney.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Words mean things. And so we argue all the time with statutes about, something that's permissible or not. It's very, nuanced. And then he goes out there and is just like, oh, you winked at someone wrong. You mean this, don't you? It's crazy.
Yep. It's insane the way that they use it and really abuse. And the other thing that you'll notice is that they love, especially Christian Zionists, love to do this. They love to take the Jewish identity, wrap it around whatever cause it is, and then use it to just beat the crap out of people they don't like, right? And we see, clearly Ted Cruz is still pretty butthurt about that humiliating interview that Tucker gave him. I've never seen anything like it.
That is so true. I was going out to Florida that week. I don't know if you ever heard of Tower Gang. It's no longer, but anyway, this. Okay.
So I've been on with Jose, right?
Jose was part of it. I used to produce that show. Anyway, we had this other thing, and it was at that time. So we were all going out there and meeting, and that's when that had happened. And so I took the time to just listen to it. I think on the plane, and I was, as an attorney, like I watched trials and all this other stuff too. I was like fascinated to see Ted get worked the way he did, using his own language against him. It was, I don't know that I've seen such a brutal takedown in an interview.
Yeah, he was very unprepared. I think I almost felt bad for him because I got the feeling that he went in. I don't feel bad for him.
Let me interrupt, because I heard Dave Smith talk about this on the trigonometry one, which is it was cordial until he called Tucker anti-Semitic. He basically said, "Oh, you're talking about Jews," and he hadn't mentioned that. Sorry, go ahead. So I think that's where it went off the rails.
No. I think that Ted walked in thinking this was going to be friendly and a little bit, and they were just going to like get in there and beat up. I don't know what he thought, but he definitely was not prepared for what he walked into. It was very, very clear from the get-go, and he was caught off guard. And I got the feeling that he was almost flabbergasted that he was getting these questions, and he just didn't know how to respond. Because I do think that Ted Cruz is smart, but he is also extremely emotional. And this is something that you encounter a lot with Christian Zionism, because the logics, the facts in the scripture really aren't on their side. They've got about 2 lines, 2 or 3 little pieces of scripture that they can point to, all of them Old Testament.
They can't always point to where it is, though.
No, well, we learned that one, didn't we? But all of them Old Testament. I know they always come at me with that Genesis 12:3, and I'm like, bro, that's like the 3rd page, okay?
Yeah.
I need you to understand that is what we call the preface, okay?
Yeah.
There's a whole lot going on after, okay? And that will give context to this Genesis, right? And I love it. That's always my favorite. I'm like, that's the 3rd page. There's a whole book behind all of that explains to you exactly what the Lord is saying there. But yeah, they love the Old Testament. And what I actually learned digging into this NAR, this New Apostolic Reformation ideology, which Ted Cruz's father subscribes to and is a pastor of, is it's very, very Old Testament heavy. right? And there's a couple reasons for that we can get into if you want, so, growing up.
I do want to get into that because I haven't heard, I never heard Candace mention that a bit. Mm-hmm. So if you want to now, you get into some of that, I'm fine with that.
Okay, yeah. So if you guys go to my page, it's Village Crazy Lady, but there's no A in the Village. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a character limit, so I had to drop something, If I could go back,
I put it in the title just so the people wouldn't think I didn't know how to spell. So
yeah. If I could go back now, I probably would have picked a different letter to drop, to be quite honest with you. But it is what it is. You have no idea how many people say you don't even know how to spell village. I'm like, really?
Okay,
really?
that's the criticism. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, anyways, if you go to my page, I've got it pinned on my profile. An intro to the NAR, which is the New Apostolic Reformation, which is this ideology that meshes kind of a certain sect of Protestantism, or excuse me, a Pentecostalism with your like charismatic churches, right? So these are charismatic. There's a lot of it's like prosperity ideology. What denomination are you?
I'm Seventh-day Adventist, if you've heard of that.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Right, but we're not there. We're not the NAR. I don't think we're in the NAR.
No.
Matter of fact, in church last week, which I don't go often, but I happened to be there. Mm-hmm. They did a little intro about the first part of Acts and Saul converting to Paul. His whole job was going out and killing Christians. I'm like, oh, this is an interesting one for me. So I enjoyed it. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. So a lot of this is, the NAR comes about, it's formulated in the 1970s in Switzerland, actually, which is very weird in and of itself. But it's kind of like this dead ideology that doesn't get picked back up again until the very early 2000s, actually the year 2000. And it's kind of brought back into being by a man named C. Peter Wagner. The C is important because there's other Peter Wagners, obviously, and but if you put in C. Peter Wagner, you will come up with this gentleman who kind of really re-sparks the Kindle and the interest in this, right? And
is he American then?
He is. Yeah, he is, and he's part of. He was adjacent to the. I don't want to. I'm sorry, guys. I do not want to mistake this because I have learned that if I say something wrong, people will be in my DMs. You have absolutely no idea.
No, I don't have your followers. I couldn't imagine. The porn bots come into my sometimes, but.
Okay, so yes, so I was right. So he was the founding president of the Global Harvest Ministries, which of course probably most people have heard of, right?
Yeah.
Something of, Global Harvest Ministries, something like that. So I wanted to make sure. I was going to say Harvest Ministries. It's not something else. It is adjacent to that, but Global Harvest, right?
And where is that? Where was that location wise?
So Global Harvest comes out of, I'm pretty sure it's California. Everything comes out of California.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's.
I thought you were in Texas for some reason.
Oh, that sounds fun though. No, but I mean California, Texas. I think I would like. Well, you're back east, right?
Yes,
I don't need docs.
In North Carolina. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I'm fairly certain that this is, yes, because he ends up hooking up with all of these guys. And the Harvest Ministries, which is actually ran by a man named Shay On now, is also definitely in Southern California. So anyways, he's in Global Harvest Ministries, but he kind of re-sparks this new apostolic reformation. And this is Pentecostalism, but also different, right? So it's Pentecostals. Do you know anything about Pentecostals?
I mean,
Nothing. So I'm in the South, so we have a lot of Pentecostals down here. I ended up sticking my foot in my mouth when last time I was getting my hair done. I forget how many Pentecostals there are in the South. And but I've been to Pentecostal churches many, many, many times, and always good people. I love Pentecostals. I have nothing against any of them. I've met one that I did not care for, but always really generous, kind people. Don't get me wrong. That said, some Pentecostal churches, and it's funny because they'll warn each other about the other ones like all the time. And I was talking to my hairdresser, and she grew up Pentecostal, and she's like, "Oh no, you got to watch out for some of them because they are all fake. You don't know." It's so cute. And so Pentecostals believe in apostles and prophets, right? Okay. And New Apostolic Reformation takes it to a whole new level, right? They have a lot of prophets. And prophets can, of course, they are believed that they can speak. It's not just speaking in tongues, which is what I was kind of used to, what I've seen before. This is actually receiving the message of God. This is what they say. And then, of course, the apostles are the leaders of the church. But the NAR takes it to a whole nother level in which they, and this is where they get kind of controversial, they proclaim that the apostles must be in charge of every aspect of the church. Okay, so they're over your teachers or your pastors and whatnot. They're above everything. They are the ministers of the church, right? And everything must come through them. They work. There's only certain prophets. It gets a little confusing, and I also don't want to like. Another thing that you find is that there's no central. It's not like any of this is written down.
So how are you finding that then? And let me ask you about
there's lots of writing on it.
Are they self-appointed apostles in this church? Is that what it happened? Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's one of those things where it's like you just become, you know, it's I'm not gonna say that I know because I don't know, because the thing is that it's not like, you know, like I grew up Methodist. I'm Methodist. I'm like a very old school Protestant, you know, very classical Protestant, and none of this is filming. I don't understand any of it. I'm like, what do you mean? How did these things? You don't have, but there's no, like, the ideology is not even necessarily written down, right? The rules aren't written down. The format, the hierarchy is not centralized. There is no central agency that you could appeal to if you had an issue with this. None of this, right? So it just stems out of a handful of of apostles, some of which are also prophets.
So they have prophets, modern day prophets. Okay.
Oh yes, they do.
And do you have anything is that self-appointed as well, or do they have anything that this is what you do to become a prophet? Or
oh no, so you can go to school. They have an apostle school.
Okay.
But no, if you have to be chosen by God to be a prophet. Okay. And
let me ask you this. So I'm not adept on every religion, but I think the Catholic Church, right, to be considered a saint or something, there's some things you have to have done or to, you know, whatever. How do they know? You just say, I'm a prophet. God's told me. Or does someone else tell them that you are?
Well, in the Catholic Church, there's a very specific format that you have to follow, right? You have to perform 2 miracles, and then there's like an appeal system. You know, somebody has to like submit and show that these miracles have actually happened, and then, you know, it goes through an approval process, and then finally, like, I believe it is the Pope that will come down and ordain this person is now a saint, right? Because we can prove people have prayed to them and they have, you know, enacted. I believe that's how it works. There is an order to the right. No. Okay. No, not that I know of anyways, and not that I have found. But there are very prominent prophets. Okay. And I don't want to make fun of anybody. Some of this, I'm not going to lie. Okay. Please don't take it personal. Some of it, it's a little kooky. I'm not going to lie. Okay. That said, there are millions and millions of people who believe in this, so it absolutely must be taken seriously. Sure. Whether or not you think it's crazy is irrelevant. A lot of people believe in this, and because they believe it and it's important to them, we have to give it a certain amount of respect, right? And recognize that this has heavy influence over people, and we shouldn't disparage it. So I never want to come off like I am disparaging these, you know, even though, when I see it, some of it, I'm like, come on, guys, like, this is, you know, but
I would just say there's some skepticism and I imagine just your research that you do all the time, that's just kind of a key element. It doesn't mean cynical, because that might be the other part of the disrespect that you're looking at. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, no. I watch some of this stuff and I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking at this guy's finances and It's not really aligning with the things that he's preaching on here.
Well, there you go.
And the Pentecostals that I know will tell you, well, that's because they're false prophets, and everybody warns about false prophets. Okay. So that's what I love about Pentecostals is they believe in prophets, but they also will recognize that there's a lot of bullshitters out there, and they'll be the first ones to call it. Right.
Interesting.
So God bless them for that. So it was fascinating because I'm getting my hair done. It's about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, and I'm stick my foot right in my mouth about Pentecostals. Turns out everyone in the salon is a Pentecostal. Literally everyone but me. And I love my hairdresser. She's so sweet. She's like, "Girl, just keep it down a little bit." And but I walked it back. I made everything fine. It's not like I was being super nasty or anything like that. I was just, expressing skepticism. But I bring up what is called the 7 Mountain Mandate, which is, I know we're getting back. Sorry, I got off a track with that. NAR comes out. C. Peter Wagner, he kind of starts it again. Again, there's heavy emphasis on prophets and apostles, and also placing them at the top of the church, right? So this is the very, very important thing that kind of sets them apart from like your normal Pentecostals. Then along comes a guy named Lance Wallnau, and he is in 2013. I mean, he's with Wagner for a while. They're coming up in this church. They're building this really kind of new denomination, but it's very decentralized. They hook up with a guy named Bill Johnson, who is out of, most people know this church, or if you're evangelical, it's Bethel Church, which is in Redding, California. It's a mega church. It's a huge church. But more importantly, Bethel is known widely, really around the world for their music, for their music program. And so Wallnau hooks up with Wagner, and then eventually Bill Johnson and Lance Wallnau, write a book called the 7 Mountain. Hold on, let me give it to you. It is the 7 Mountain Mandate. But it's it's something to that effect. Here we go, boom. And then, which builds on a different ideology and kind of meshes this NAR with it. So it's called Invading Babylon, the 7 Mountain Mandate by Lance Wallnau and Bill Johnson. And that's 2013 they published this. 7 Mountain Mandate comes up with, sorry guys, I'm going to pull it up because I really don't like to misspeak on these things. 7 Mountain Mandate comes, and it is pulling from Revelation 17, which talks about this harlot or prostitute, depending on your translation, who sits atop the 7 mountains of Rome, or 7 hills of Rome. And Wallnau ascribes this to, Wallnau and Johnson, but it's really Wallnau, ascribe this to, this is what we as Christians, we must come to dominate these 7 mountains, the 7 hills of Rome. And once we do, it will hasten the return of Christ.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to interrupt on there. Yeah. So I always have problems with and I see this with the Zionists, and maybe this is where you're connecting them. We're going to do something. We're going to take control of, do God's will. He's not doing it. Maybe even as, Jesus in the garden gets betrayed, and the idea was that Judas was, I'm going to make him do something to hasten the return or to whatever, to take over. This is people getting in the way and doing it's crazy, I think.
Well, for me growing up, you can't do anything to bring back the coming of the Lord. It will happen when it happens, right? It's all preordained, and of course, we all have free will, but at the same time, the Lord knows when he's coming, and there's nothing that you or I, or even a big group of us, could do to make this happen, right? And in fact, doing so is you're probably, at least I've always been taught, probably following, false leadership from the devil, right? The devil is leading you down a dangerous path. And so, again, very antithetical to everything I've ever been taught, but I digress. So the Seven Mountain Mandate says that Christians must ascend to the helm. We must control these 7 aspects of society, and it's education, entertainment, family, business, religion, media, and government, which is everything, right? There's really not anything else.
No.
Okay. And again, they tie this back to Revelation 17. When I was first looking into this, I love it. I called my brother-in-law, who is very, they're so learned. My sister and my brother-in-law, they're just the most, religious, kind of godly, just wonderful people that I know, very learned in the Bible. I called my brother-in-law. I said, I need you to give me the 30,000 foot view on Revelation 17. He's like, is this a joke? He's like, Melissa, you need to slow down, okay? And he's like getting all concerned. And I'm like, just tell me what it means. He's like, I can't tell you what it means. And we sit there and we're on the phone for like an hour and a half, like reading through it. And he's trying to explain it to me. And it takes me like and I'm like, this isn't making sense. Like what, how are they doing this? And then I figure it out. And this is a worldwide exclusive. I actually haven't even published this.
Wait, do I have any? Okay, sorry. I was going to get the laugh, or not the applause track going. Ready? Let's go ahead.
So I'm in the NAR, right? And I'm researching and I'm doing all of this study, and I come across this little thing. So do you know anything about the Johnson Amendment?
As far as, no, I guess not.
So Johnson Amendment is something, it's like from the 50s, I believe, maybe 60s, which basically bars pastors from engaging in politics in their official capacity. And if they do engage in politics, then they could have their church's nonprofit status revoked by the IRS, right? It's an IRS rule.
Okay. Makes sense. Which, come on, that's never followed, all right? Because the black churches in the South.
Right. The black churches have been doing it for years and years, and no one, and in the white churches have always bitched and complained about it, but still would never do it. Well, here's the first thing that happens is in 2006, a man named John Hagee starts the Christians United for Israel, right? Which is a Christians, and he attaches this Zionism, which is a political ideology, he attaches it to his religion. And then he starts preaching it from the pulpit. All right. This is our first Christian Zionism is really kind of like the first crack in the wall, right? And it's very effective. And this is really where your Genesis 12:3 comes from, right? And I believe it's 12:3, right? I'm saying that right.
Could be.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain. This is where it comes from, and they have attached an entire political ideology to a single line in the Bible, right? And it has allowed them to advocate for this political ideology to wade even into elections on behalf of political candidates because it's part of their religion, right?
Yeah.
So flash forward 2008, there's a Texas Wall Builders Association kind of thing. And this is backed by a lot of like your Tim Dunns in Texas and whatnot. But Wall Builders isn't what you're thinking. It's not. It's Wall Builders is like is it
the organization? I'm trying to remember the guy's name, and he's been on with Glenn Beck a bunch. He does historical stuff.
I don't know. Wall Builders when I first saw it, I was like, oh, they're building the wall. That's what I'm thinking, and it's not. It wasn't.
I'm getting the construction stuff on.
Right. Hold on. Let's see.
Tim Barton. Does that ring a bell?
Hold on.
Yeah, that's the guy. He's been on with Glenn Beck a bunch, which now makes sense.
Did a Wall Builders Christian Organization, Aledo, Texas. Yep, David Barton. To influence government and
David
perhaps, yeah.
Yes.
He might have a brother. So
yeah, there's a younger one that's also with Wall Builders, Tim Barton.
Right. So these are kind of like your Christian nationalist type,
Okay.
right? So they really back what was his name? Perry.
He was the governor of Texas, and
He
couldn't,
was, and I
couldn't
love
name all the
Rick Perry.
different
Rick-
departments
Rick
he would knock out. Yeah.
I just love him. I'm telling you, when I lived in Texas, I lived in Texas for 2 years.
Okay.
He used to crack me up. We'd do all these theatrics. I remember this one time he went on the hill of the state capitol when I was living there, and he pulled out guns and started shooting them in the air.
Oh snap! I don't know that that's good. The bullets come down.
I think they were blanks,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was so ridiculous, and I believe it was over rain, if I recall correctly. It was like praying to God for rain or something like that. I don't know. I like Rick Perry. He's a little bit ridiculous, although Rick Perry's actually very intelligent and had some really good ideas when he ran. I don't want to get off track, but I actually have some strong opinions on Rick Perry that are. That aside. He's tied in with some Christian nationalists who have got some got some ideas, boy. Anyways, this Wall Builders Association backs him, right? And they have this separate group that they start. It's another 501c3, and it's like the Nia Mahler Foundation. And this is in 2006 when they're backing him, and it's a 501c3, and it specifically wades into politics. It wades into the Texas politics, right? Which again, it's not just religious organizations that aren't allowed to do that. It is also nonprofits as well across the board. And a Texas, like separation of church and state entity or, nonprofit, they sue, right? They file a complaint with the IRS. They want this organization's nonprofit status pulled. Obama IRS comes back, and this is in early 2009, and they say, they issue what is called a private letter ruling, and they say, no, actually, if a political entity can tie if a religious organization can tie its political advocacy to its religion, it is not in violation of nonprofit rules. And they give the example of Christian Zionism.
Wow.
Okay. So this is like blows the doors wide open. Okay. That's 2009. Flash forward 2013. Now we've got Lance Wallnau with his 7 mountain mandate, which is literally just giving them access. They can advocate for anything.
Yeah.
Because it's every aspect of society that they have now tied into their religion.
Do you think that was on purpose, or it just melded the two? Yeah.
Everything happens to be very convenient. Let's just say that. Okay, I'm not going to accuse that. I will not accuse them of that. I can't prove it, obviously, that they were devious in that way. I will just say that this all ends up being extremely convenient for everyone. Okay?
What about profitability? Because I'm sure these churches have exploded. And so then you go, well, where's all the money coming from? Could it be that it's coming from a certain region that's not in the U.S.?
Some of it absolutely is.
Okay.
Some of it absolutely is.
Qatar. No, just kidding.
Yeah, this damn Qataris, man. They got to stay out of our...
Yeah.
But no. Something else you need to understand is that there is an unbelievable number of Christians in this country that are absolutely obsessed with Jews. They are obsessed with Jews in very often very unhealthy ways, very bizarre ways sometimes. A lot of them kind of like it. So what I've found is there's a whole lot of Christians who see themselves as the Jews. in a very weird way. It's hard to explain. I won't bore your audience with this. So you've got those. You have your hardcore Christian Zionists. I actually just watched this documentary. I had a follower recommend it to me. I was blown away by this documentary. It was called Thy Kingdom Come. It came out in 2020.
I'm going to write that down. What's it about?
It's about Christian Zionism.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's on Amazon Prime. You can rent it. You can buy it. You can do, like one of those free 7-day trials on one of their subscriptions, and you can just watch it for free.
Is it pro this, or is it like
it's just exposing. It's really
exposing.
Just kind of showcase. I want to say exposing. It's showcasing this ideology that I had heard of, and it's funny because when you talk out against Christian Zionism, you'll have people in your mentions and your DMs and whatnot. I remember that I had this guy. Do you know anything about the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews?
No.
Okay. So there's this NGO that was started by this rabbi, I believe it was in Minnesota in the 80s, right? And it was like to bridge the bridge the communities of Christians and Jews, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally all it is just these people going from evangelical churches to evangelical churches, collecting money from Christians and then giving it to Jewish organizations. And it's huge. It's huge. They collect, I think it's something like $150 million a year from these evangelical Christians, all across the country. And a lot of it goes back and, it goes into just kind of BS, some of it's supposedly it's helping to resettle Holocaust survivors from the USSR. That was early, and now we've still got this going on. And people will say, well, you said that's BS. It's not that I say that that's BS per se, right? Obviously, I don't want anything bad to happen to old people, okay? But we got lots of old people in America that actually could use some.
Yeah.
We have a lot of old people in America that are actually pretty dependent on the charity, and it would be nice if that charity stayed in the U.S. actually. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. Did you see the Norm Finkelstein interview with Candace?
Right.
He talks about at some point the numbers just don't add up sorry about numbers of Holocaust survivors. At some point you have way more survivors than were ever there. So they're dying off, right?
Well, the thing is that they've actually just expanded the definition of what a quote unquote Holocaust survivor is, right? So it used to be someone that actually came out of a camp. Now it's anyone who was at any time in Western Europe, or actually I think it's Eastern, I think it's all of continental Europe at all. If you were Jewish and at any point from the rise of Hitler, 1932 through 1945, if you resided in Europe, you are technically a Holocaust survivor. And we know that specifically because I don't know if you remember the attack back there in Denver. That was a lady, and they said, she was a Holocaust survivor. And then we come to find out that he was 2 years old, and she actually never lived under Nazi control ever. She was 2 years old. Her family moved. I guess they went from Hungary to France, and then they went to Cuba. Okay. At no point were they ever subjected to Nazi rule, but because they had left Europe during the 30s, she was in fact a Holocaust survivor. You expand the definition that much, it's
this is someone has cancer and it's in remission and they take care of it, and they get equated with someone who had a skin tab that was precancerous, and they're a cancer scare survivor. That's what I told my kids once. Okay, continue on, please.
No, it gets pretty crazy, but the thing is that it's a grift, right? And we know that. And there's plenty of really good Jews. You've got Norman Finkelstein, but even way before him, there were people who recognized hey, there's actually something not right here. There's something really weird in America going on with our obsession with the Holocaust. I've talked about it on my page before. This didn't even happen in our country. And have
you ever watched the documentary Defamation?
Mm-mm. No.
So that I watched that a few years ago. Matter of fact, I did a members only, and we have on Substack. Go subscribe over there, people. And we watched that. And it's a guy from Israel. It's a Jew from Israel that decides to look into the ADL. Okay, so he comes over to the ADL and he talks to them, and then he follows them as and this is like early 2000s, and then follows them over to do like different camps that they do, with kids from Israel. Yeah. It's scare porn to an utter, just unbelievable extent. But what's fascinating is there's an older, it's actually, it's not Greenblatt, it's the guy that was before him that was the head of the ADL, and it's his family. And they're talking about how they're not religious anymore, or they're not, but they outright just say their religion is this Holocaust stuff. So that I think is something to think about.
Oh, I agree. Well, it has become, and I've posted about this as well. Definitely the Holocaust has absolutely become a religion. And it's not just the Jews that subscribe to this religion. Yeah. There's plenty of, secular Americans, plenty of Christian Americans who definitely they see in really, once you understand that the Holocaust has become a religion for a lot of people, once you recognize that and you realize that a lot of the kind of just really bizarre devotion to Israel and kind of worship of Jews, it makes more sense. Once I remember reading this thread early on after October 7th and talking about like the boomer obsession with Israel and with Jews in general and the Holocaust, that they see essentially the Holocaust is a lot like the it was a lot like the crucifixion. The Jews are Jesus. The Jews rise up from the Holocaust, this terrible thing, right? Hitler, of course, is Satan. He is the ultimate evil. He's worse than Satan, is what we're told. Because, of course, and I've talked about this, is that you can put statues of Satan up in the Capitol buildings anywhere in this country, and everyone's expected to respect it, and we can't, we got to respect their religion. Go try putting a picture, a statue of Hitler up.
Yeah, or Robert E. Lee.
Right, exactly. All of we've got all these untouchables, like these people you cannot touch. They're just so repulsive, right? Yet again, we have to tolerate a statue of Satan in the Iowa State Capitol as if it's like normal and respectable, right? But I digress from that. Anyways, but there's lots of Jews that have called this out. They call it, there's a documentary called The Holocaust Industry. I believe Norm Finkelstein actually wrote, I have a book by him that talks about the Holocaust industry. It is, it's like Holocaust Inc. or whatnot. So, and it's not healthy, okay? It's not healthy for anybody, what's going on here. It's definitely not healthy for Jews, per se, because this constant messaging that's pumped into Jews all the time, and I worry about this. I think this is very concerning, that the whole world has always hated you, that anti-Semitism is endemic, it is in people's DNA, that there's nothing you can do to stop it. Just one day it's going to flare up and the whole world's going to turn against you and everybody's going to want to kill you. That's a messaging that is pumped out from birth, essentially. I was reading this girl's page one day, and she said that her earliest memories were being taught about the Holocaust. I'm like, that's not normal, okay? Right.
So I was boring my wife a few weeks ago about the Leo Frank stuff. I'm like, because I was going on some anyway, I was doing some more stuff. So I was telling, and she's like, why does this all matter? So I'm saying some things, and then she's like, yeah, but the Jews were the Holocaust. She kind of brings that up. I go, okay, so let's, and I'm tying this to an idea of the danger of this mindset. So I go, okay, well, blacks, we were enslaved in this country. Should we continually talk about that and do reparations? And she's like, okay, you kind of got me. So with BLM and all these, this is a project I've talked about doing for over a year now, which is the IHRA's definition of anti-Semitism. Taking that, and I've started it, but I haven't finalized it. Taking that and changing the words to make it represent, everything's the same, but instead of like Israel, it's BLM, and instead of Jew, it's like black.
That's smart.
And then doing a fake bill and seeing all the Ben Shapiro's and all these other ones just freak out and want to have something to, to make a big deal about it. I haven't followed through, but the sentiment is still there because reverse racism, the right gets all worked up over that. But I think it's just a bad mentality all around. You'd mentioned supremacy, and I think that's the idea.
Yeah, well, it's really an appeal and almost an addiction to victimhood because victimhood is a currency, right? It absolutely is. If you're oppressed, if you have been oppressed, if you can claim, and that's not to say that there isn't real discrimination. Of course there is. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've advocated against it, and I will be the first person to acknowledge it when I think it's happening, right? That said, I do think that, you shouldn't actually be telling your preschoolers about the Holocaust. That's especially when you live in America and the Holocaust didn't happen in America because we have a rock solid till very recently Bill of Rights, Constitution. We have courts and systems and things like that, and just this kind of constant doomsday thinking that I see engaged in by some, not all, but some Zionist Jews, which actually allow them, it gives excuse for them to act in really aggressive ways to people who disagree with them, right? So they essentially approach everything, what I've seen, and it's not everybody, but it is definitely some real zealots, like a kill or be killed kind of thing. And it's like, where are you even coming from with this? Like, what do you mean I can't have a conversation with someone who said something bad about the Holocaust? I said the other day, I said, I'm actually, this probably get me in trouble.
Not on the show.
I'm a little bit, if you're more offended by by someone denying the resurrection than you are them denying the Holocaust, I don't know. I'm actually, if you're claiming to be a Christian and it offends you more that someone denied the Holocaust and they deny the resurrection, that's a problem.
This is spooky. And the reason I say this is because today I'm listening to Dave on the trigonometry, and they're saying it's dangerous thought about the Holocaust. And I thought the exact same thing you just did. I'm like, I would love to ask these people, it's an atheist, the resurrection, right? Do you deny that? And why is that any different? It's just, anyway, thank you.
Right, no, exactly. And that's what I said, why is it okay to deny the resurrection? And I have to respect your feelings and your opinions on that. Yet, because of course, this is a historical event. Mm-hmm. It's written down in the best-selling book of all time, which again, of course, you use as your justification for your land grabs. Okay, so you certainly believe some parts of that book.
Right.
Okay. And of course, you also use parts of that book to demand that I must support your land grab. All right. But why is it okay for you to deny the most important part of the book and say it didn't happen, or that man was a fraud, and all these things? And I have to respect this. I have to respect your opinion on this. But somebody questions the Holocaust, and they must be shunned from polite society. I don't actually give a shit if you deny the Holocaust or not. It is of no, I think that there's obviously well-documented atrocities that occurred in World War II. We can certainly talk about them. I am sick of World War II. I'm sick of it being held over my head. There's been several wars the U.S. has engaged in since then. I don't use World War II as any barometer for how the U.S. should respond to anything or act anything. In fact, there's an entire world order that came into place post-World War II to prevent the things that happened in World War II. Mm-hmm. So when you use World War II as your justification for things happening in 2025, it pisses me off. And so yeah, again, I just don't care. I'm so sick of this crap being held over me as some kind of, you must respect or you must go along with all of this stuff because the Holocaust, because World War II, because the Nazis. I don't care. I don't care. Yes, all of that stuff is bad. No, we don't want to return to it, but I'm just not going to be morally blackmailed into going along with whatever it is that you've got planned because you can, I don't know, you can point to this historical event 80 years ago.
Yeah, and to me, the biggest part of all that is the victimhood stuff, and it's not healthy. It's not good for our kids, and it's not good for our nation. Honestly, I mean, I don't think the whole thing of California's trying to do this thing with the reparations. I just think it's damning. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't help you pull yourself up with your bootstraps and whatnot to continue on. By the way, let's keep going. I said an hour, but we're going to keep pushing through because I've got more stuff. NAR, is there anything else with NAR that you needed to talk about, and why is it important to the Charlie Kirk stuff?
Okay, so NAR, I've got more stuff coming on that, and I'll have some threads. I've wanted to be very careful with this, right? I have a theory about what happened. Okay, I think all of these things are important. But I don't think that I think they lead us to where we need to be. I don't think they are the destination. Does that make sense? So there's a caution there that, of course, I'm not trying to accuse anyone. It's not like I know who pulled the trigger or anything like that.
Do you think, let me just say this, because my thing is there's two different things with Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. One is the investigation into who done it. But the other one, because I saw what Megan was on with the Fifth Column, and they're ripping, all this going off. The reason she's gone down, at least my thinking, and that this whole Israel stuff has come about with Charlie is because Netanyahu comes out right away and makes comments. So then I think there's two diverging paths. They may connect, but there's two distinct issues, which is the Israel issue with Charlie, all the lying about him, and then who done it. And it maybe like I said, maybe they're going to connect. What do you think of that? Of making a delineation between the two?
Yeah, I think that what they did post the assassination was highly inappropriate. And I also think that, it's a clue. I think, it kind of goes to the lady doth protest too much, methinks, right?
Yeah.
It was highly inappropriate what they did because the thing is when you go back, and of course, many, many, many of these posts and tweets and things like that have been deleted. But the overwhelming sense prior to September 10th was that Charlie Kirk is going down a dangerous path, quote unquote. Charlie Kirk is associating and affiliating with anti-Semites, Jew haters, Israel haters, and TPUSA is a threat to Zionism. Specifically, TPUSA is a threat actually to globalism, right? Which is what Zionism is, right? Because Zionism stems out of Cold War ideology, right?
Yeah.
And in order to be a like hardcore Zionist, the U.S. has to control the whole world.
Yeah.
Because at any time, the commies could come up, okay? And this is 100% where the ideology comes from. And you could go, it's funny because I used to say that I had read all of the State Department Near East cables. I have not. I have read a huge majority of them from 48 to 63, but I have not read. Somebody's like, you haven't read all of them. There's no way you've read all of them. And then I realized that I had not. But yes, most of the ones dealing with the Palestinian refugee crisis, Israel diplomacy, Israeli diplomacy, the quote-unquote Jewish issue, which is actually an actual segment within the State Department cables. Anyways, I read it, and this is something that is really talked about throughout, right? Is that when Israel was formed, the Arabs had all aligned with the Soviets. Because the Soviets, of course, weren't aligned with the Brits. And the Brits had promised the Jews this state. The Brits had just kind of made a muddle. And to their credit, the Brits actually did it the best that they could. with a shit situation. In fact, I would guess that if the Brits could go back, they would have just had nothing to do with that part of the Ottoman Empire to begin with, because there really wasn't anything to be gained from any of it. Syria really was the crown jewel of the Levant. Unfortunately, now we've seen it just torn apart. It's so awful what has happened there. But that said, all of this ideology, Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East, they're our greatest ally, all this crap is all Cold War relic stuff, right? Arabs are all aligned with the Soviets are giving them all the weaponry that they need, and finally, and of course we want to be friends with the Arabs because we actually want the oil that's in the Iraqi oil, Iranian oil, Saudi oil. We want all of that, and of course I know the Iranians are not Arabs, but you know what I'm saying. And so we're aligned with them. We don't want to align too much with the Jews, except for the Jewish lobby. I could say lobby. It's the Zionist lobby in the U.S. has so much power, and they can pull and push and pull elections. That said, Truman, of course, they control. Truman is so corrupt. He comes out of St. Louis, which is kind of this crossroads where a lot of illegal, like a lot of mob activity took place because St. Louis was a crossroads during Prohibition, right? Which is where a lot of illegal liquor came through. So he's got a lot of mob contacts through there. That's where he comes from. And they always, organized crime has always got him, over a barrel. But then Eisenhower comes in, and Eisenhower is like freaking a straight arrow, and he wants nothing to do with any of this, and he hates all of these people. You go there and you read all of his people's cables and whatnot. They're such like no nonsense military guys. It's so funny. Just read like when you switch over from one to the other. And Eisenhower puts a arms embargo on the Israelis. He hates them. He wants nothing to do with them at all. And he thinks they're a giant pain in the ass, and he thinks it was a huge mistake to ever have aligned with the Israelis because, of course, the Arabs have all the oil. Why would we ever have aligned with because, again, Eisenhower's not a Jew. He doesn't believe in Zionism, nothing like that, right? It makes sense. That was the last time American foreign policy made any freaking sense, right? Then you come in, you've got Kennedy. Kennedy's a whole thing in and of himself, but Johnson is really, they get their guy in there. He's corrupt. There's a lot of corruption out of Dallas, and there's a lot of corruption in New Orleans, which bleeds over into Houston, and they're able to kind of elevate the people they want to in Texas. And that's how, from there, it just kind of like snowballs. And eventually, by the time you get to George W. Bush back around to Texas again, it's just done. It's just done. And of course, the Cold War is over at that point. But now we've kicked off the War on Terror, which was absolutely the replacement of the Cold War.
Oh, absolutely. A question about the cables. You said that the Mideast cable. You said they had a whole section on the Jewish issue. Did they have one on the Jewish question? Or was that the same?
No,
nothing on that. Okay.
No, there's no. Well, there's lots of pills in there, but no JQ questions. No.
Okay.
It is interesting though. I don't know if you ever read. Of course, the famous ones are Truman's diary entries on Jews.
Have you ever read them? Not. No.
Oh yeah, he's pretty harsh. He's a pretty harsh critic.
Wasn't Nixon kind of some of his tapes? Wasn't he kind of a critic of
the tapes? Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is that they're all like so corrupt. Like Nixon is also a product of organized crime. I always say that the best, a lot of people love Whitney Webb's book. Did you read it? It's
no.
two-part. No, it's so dense. I have it, and it's just like, God bless her. I don't got nothing. It's so much. I really recommend The Dark Quadrant, which of course I'm, let me make sure because
I feel, look, part of like, research and being able to like spit it out in a way that you can take in. Whitney's dry, and I imagine her book is a little bit. And then I don't mean to bash her at all, but if someone says something, she acts butthurt about everything all the time, and it turns me off. And so I'm like, I will find this info from someone else, and it's been you actually.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan Marshall. So I knew it was Jonathan, but I couldn't remember the last name. Jonathan Marshall wrote The Dark Quadrant. It actually came out prior to Whitney Webb's book. It's much more succinct, and it's fantastic. It's a wonderful read. It's a wonderful listen. I've read and listened to it, and it really goes into, but it's just so much more condensed, and it's really what you need to know, right? Of course. But it's just about organized crime and the ways in which it comes up and the ways in which it develops. And it's about 350 pages, I think. So it's not, but again, Dark Quadrant, Jonathan Marshall, you can get it on Audible. And that, for me, because there's a lot in Whitney Webb's books that I'm not going to say were lifted, but there's a very similar pattern in the early on, and there's a lot of sources pulled from Marshall's books.
Interesting.
And it is, I'm not saying that she didn't. Yeah. I do, because her books are it's just so much, it's like freaking, they're like 700 pages each. It's like I know Ian Carroll read it. And of course I own them, but what about because she's done Epstein stuff, and you've done some Epstein stuff, and then I saw you debating ish with Michael Tracy. He's really got he's got some. He takes an issue. There's some things I agree with him on, and then he takes an issue that Epstein or something, and he just wants to destroy the people. That I think that's what it is. Let me ask you, because you said there's a bunch of stuff that's come up. What are some issues that are hot right now that you are in? Actually, let me back up even from there. How do you find the time and the effort, and how are you doing this? Is this I hope you're getting paid off of Twitter, and you also have. I can make money. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. And you also have a podcast. Let's see if I have this up here. There you go. Previously Prohibited, right? With Janine, and you guys do great. So I hope you're getting something from that. Are you working as well? How do you work and do this at the same time?
No, so I don't. I had a business. I sold my business.
Okay, good.
And so I do this, and I make money. It's not like a ton of money. I'd never. It's funny because everybody always, you're just doing this for clicks. I'm like, I assure you.
Yeah.
I have never made that much money. Certainly, there are 100 different ways I could make way more money. Hell, I could be a Taylor Swift. If I was like just in it for engagements, I would 100% just be a Taylor Swift stan. Like that's what I would do.
I was thinking you're going to say Alexis Wilton, but I guess Taylor's.
No. I would just repost Taylor Swift, like her clothes. I would do like gossip about her. The engagement on those accounts is like through the roof. It's ridiculous, and it's like, that's what I would do. If I was after clicks, that's 100% what I would do, without a doubt. So no, I can assure you. But again, I'm fortunate that I don't have to make like that much money, and I do fine. So I get to work on this, and I love it because I just get to work at my leisure.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just shit post all day. Other times I'm like, I don't know, balls deep in the freaking State Department cables from 1954. It is what it is. But
I find it fascinating that I imagine if I didn't have the job I'm doing, and because I love this kind of stuff too, right? And I focus and do that. I might lose some attention. It actually impresses me. That's all I'm saying. I'm trying to get into how do you do this? Yeah. That's how do you find all these little nuggets?
Well, I have to be interested in it. So people send me stuff all the time, and if it doesn't spark, it has to catch a spark. So somebody sent me something, and I'm not going to talk about it yet, but the spark has been lit.
Oh, good.
It has nothing to do with any of this stuff. I'm so sick of talking about Jews. I'm not even.
I know, right?
I'm so sick of talking about, and of course that doesn't mean, obviously, I'm sure, God bless the poor Palestinians that have just had to deal with this shit. Right. I don't want to say I'm not abandoning that cause by any means. and in some ways this is related, but somebody sent me something and it sparked something in me. So I'm going to move through this and go to that. But yeah, it has to spark something. I have to find an interest in it. But once I do, I worked as a paralegal for a criminal defense attorney. I had that kind of, I have a patience. I have a patience for digging through minutia, discovery files and whatnot. I love that stuff. I love like looking for the nitty gritty. So that's certainly a gift. Absolutely. Just the patience to look for things, because that's what you have to do. There's so much stuff in open source intel that people don't even realize. You have no idea how much is just printed out there. You could go to you don't even know how many mysteries could be solved if everyone just went down to their regional depository and sifted through government documents. They print all this stuff. You can just go and request it, and they'll either give you a microfilm or they'll give you the freaking book, and you can just look through it. You have no idea how many hours I have just spent at the UNC library or even my local FSU library, just sifting through old documents and reading actual depositions, from congressional hearings. So has to spark an interest in me. And of course, Charlie Kirk definitely did. The public assassination of him. And it was an assassination. It was obviously, I know, it wasn't just a murder. It wasn't some trans kid or some kid obsessed with trans. It was a political assassination done by what I believe is I believe it was done to send a message. I think I know what that message was. And I do believe it was done by very powerful forces in, world governance. It was a state actor.
Okay. Let's move on to some. I think this is something. And by the way, so here's my deal with like this current, Jews in Israel. It's not even so much, it's more the hypocrisy. And to me, from the right, that just works me up. I get all worked up over. I don't even care about the left right now. I'm just kind of like whatever, because Ted Cruz is just getting my goat. And it's because that's the more mindset that I'm with. And then you see the way that they're trying to manipulate. It's like, the Daily Wire. Oh, let's get worked up. Let's sell you some chocolates so we get some money. And it's or razors. It's taking on this big issue. Yeah. But this is one that's kind of coming to the fore here, which is this tweet. This little story that went out with the Babylon Bee. I'm sure you saw that. And then, okay. So there's that, and then I don't think I have it just showing it here, but it was someone else. Okay, anyway, so what do you think about this Babylon Bee tweet about the pagers? Is that something to get worked up over?
I think that pager attack by Israel was a mass terrorist attack. I think that what they did was abhorrent and disgusting, and they wounded thousands of innocent people, hundreds of innocent people, and that's if we very narrowly define what is innocent. Of course, Hezbollah is an actual political entity within Lebanon. Whether or not you think it's a terrorist entity is irrelevant. It absolutely does function as a government entity as well. You have doctors that are associated with the party. You have politicians associated with the party. Not everyone in Hezbollah is a militant, quote unquote, right? Mm-hmm. It is, of course, it's an Islamic faction. I believe that they do subscribe to a certain type of Islam, Sharia law, per se. I don't like to say Sharia law because most people in America don't even understand what the hell that is, and they just think immediately all the women are going to be, having their faces covered. It's just ridiculous. Right. So I don't even like to say it because most people are just stupid. They don't know what they're even talking about. But again, so, there was a really great piece in ProPublica right after, a couple months after it happened, where it's describing this doctor who she has this husband and wife, and they have their newborn baby. He's a month old in the exam room. She's a pediatrician, and She's got the baby. She's holding the baby, flipped him over, doing the exam on his back. And the husband's pager goes off. And of course, he's like some guy in the water department. He's not even anything. He's not a militant. His pager goes off. It explodes. Everyone in this tiny exam room is injured from this. And it's like, what the heck? I mean, this is abhorrent. That's terrorism. That's absolutely terrorism. You are targeting innocent people. I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable to me. It's collateral damage. It was a terrorist attack. So I don't think any of these fucking jokes are funny. Personally, I don't think any of them are funny. I don't think when that crazy wench from the Anti-Semitism Council, I forget her name, the redheaded chick, when she made the joke last year, I don't think it was her. She's like, "Oh, you want a pager?" I didn't think that was funny. I didn't think it was funny when old boy on CNN made the joke, and I don't think it's funny when the Babylon Bee makes the joke. That said, that's all they were talking about all day on my feed. I'm like, okay, I'm actually over this by now.
Yeah, I didn't weigh into, and you're right. The CNN Mehdi Hassan, he had put out a tweet. Someone joked about that, and she had someone on her show, making jokes about it. I mean, the thing that's interesting to me about that, because I don't really care, jokes is do whatever you want. I'm thin-skinned. I'm thick-skinned. Yeah, that would make more sense. But it's not me that they're making the joke about, so I get that as well. It's that little niche that has always held her in high regard. The Babylon Bee and the Seth Dillons are suddenly coming after, because it doesn't take much. Next thing you know, she's going to be called a Nazi. Are you already in a dark place? Is what Mark Levin is saying. So once again, this is a hypocrisy thing showing its face quite nicely.
I mean, somebody, the Sloan Ruth, or Routh, I don't know how you say that chick's last name. She's insane. She called her a white nationalist today. A white nationalist cabal. She's part of the white nationalist cabal on the right? This lady, you kind of want to dismiss her as crazy, but she's kind of prominent in the NCGOP. And her husband's some kind of, big lawyer or something like that. She's not just somebody that you can easily dismiss. This is the same woman who hounded Charlie Kirk. It's wild. I actually documented pretty well this woman, because she went back and it was clear she had deleted all of her specifically Charlie Kirk tweets, but she had forgotten to delete her replies to him, his actual handle. And she had forgotten to delete her replies to TPUSA. And so what you see is that she's saying that Charlie Kirk and TPUSA are a threat to America. She's saying this in July and August. She's saying he's a Nazi, he's an anti-Semite, he's a racist, all of these things. And then boom, he gets assassinated on September 9th, and flips the script. And this woman is an insane Zionist. She's a Jew, and she's psychotic. She has she's been arrested twice now for cyber stalking people.
And you're not talking about Laura Loomer?
No, totally different one. This is a blonde lady. She was arrested for cyber stalking a freaking bagger at Harris Teeter, in Cary, North Carolina, because the woman was wearing like a Palestine flag. She said that she was a terrorist. I guess she got kicked out of the store for calling this poor woman a terrorist. And then she made a scene. I guess she gets arrested. She gets charged. All of these things. Oh, that's right. She took her picture, was posting her picture all over online, calling her a terrorist. And she's just insane. Right. So she goes after Charlie Kirk, she's one of an entire mob that was after him, making his life a living hell. Because he wasn't saying every single thing that they wanted him to say the exact way they wanted him to say it, exactly when they wanted him to say it. Right. And, so she's, Megan's getting a little taste of the Charlie treatment. Tucker, of course, is getting the whole treatment. And I will say thankfully, obviously I don't want anything, I hate that these people are going through this, but there are a lot of people on the right waking up to it and saying, like, I mean, we're talking hundreds of people every single day waking up and saying, like, holy shit, what is this? This is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked, I was going to do, and I think we will not do it, which was a clip that Candace, when she was on with Barkley, the rabbi, and specifically, he specifically says anti-Semitism mutates, and so she really tries to. I was listening. It's fascinating, and it's I don't even know who Walter E. Williams is or who he was. He is an economist, a black guy that used to sub in on Rush Limbaugh. He was kind of libertarian, and right. He was fascinating, and he would talk about how the Constitution is our rule book. And if you don't know the rules, and if it always changes, it's like playing poker where someone just gets to make up the rules. And this is exactly what that is there. And it shouldn't be what, once again, we're over the top with this topic, but it's a frustrating situation of the never ending changes to what the rules are, as far as what you can say.
Right. Well, you just stop playing by that. You actually say, you know what? If you guys can't make up your rules, then I'm going to make up my own damn rules. And here's my rules. If you don't come out and flat out say that, you hate Jews, or you, or something specifically about, you make grand statements about an entire group of people, then guess what? You're not an anti-Semite. You're not an Islamophobe. You're not a racist, whatnot. Them's the rules. They're very simple. It is what it is. I try to always treat people as individuals, and not to make grand statements. It's just not who I am. It's never really been who I am. It doesn't occur to me. I always try to tell people, because I get a lot of guys that they want to blame, Jews for everything. And I'm like,
yeah.
The problem for me when you guys do that stuff is that I don't know any Jews in real life. If all the Jews disappeared tomorrow, nothing about my life would change here locally. Okay. We don't have any Jews in my town. We've got I don't know, there's probably 100, maybe, So that doesn't actually work with me. Doesn't work at all, in fact. That we still have most of the same problems that exist everywhere else. We have all of, so I don't have a lot of opinions about Jews outside of this one topic, which is, of course, Zionism,
Yeah, and if you were at a bus stop and someone's there, they could be a Jew, a black, whatever, and you just have a conversation. It's not the online fighting or it's you could just have a conversation with someone and be completely normal, as you should be. Okay, I did want to touch on one other topic if you have a little bit of time still.
Of course.
Matt Gaetz. So can you give us the overview of that, because he got taken out. Quite literally. And now it's coming back up again. And I saw your thread. You posted it just recently. What was happening to him? Is he a pedo? Please tell us.
No, he's not. He's not a pedo. Matt Gaetz just became the target of he became friends with a guy named Joel Greenberg. Whose family is, they're Jewish Zionists, and Greenberg's family owns a Daniel Empire down in Florida. They've got a lot of money, whatnot. Greenberg's a total piece of shit. But it's to the extent that quote unquote Jews own the world. Well, I'm well, Joel Greenberg's sitting in prison for 15 years. So I don't know how much control that gave him, how much advantage it gave him, because it didn't. But of course, he did a lot of bad stuff. Anyways, Greenberg is he gets elected to be the Seminole County tax collector. And in the state of Florida, the tax collector is also in charge of all official state IDs. So if you're going to get a driver's license, you're going to get a state, just a regular state ID, you need a hunting license, fishing license, anything like that, you go down to your local, your county tax collector. Greenberg gets elected to be the tax collector, and he's also just a degenerate. He's into gambling. He's a rich kid. He's just a spoiled rich kid, and he signs up for this sugar daddy website, and he hooks up with this girl who says she's 18, supposedly. That's what she tells him, and he ends up like having much sex with her, paying her for sex and whatnot. And then at some point he finds out that she is in fact not 18. She is 17. She won't be 18 till a few months after whenever he finds out. I think he finds out in like June or July. Greenberg then takes, he uses his position as the county tax collector to steal and this is important, he doesn't just make her a fake ID. He actually steals the identity of someone in the county. So people will come in, they'll get, a new license made, and then sometimes they have to discard those licenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe take a new picture. She didn't like the picture, so they took another one and they discarded it. Well, he took one of those discarded things. He undoes it, and I don't even think it actually got sealed. He superimposes this girl's picture on top of it. That's a very important detail, okay? Because it actually involves identity theft, right? Which makes her...
Not at her behest. He just did that?
Well, she knows what he's doing, and she uses this ID.
But it's other person's identity that she... Yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah, so it makes her complicit in this identity theft, okay? Which, of course... When she then travels with Greenberg up to D.C. and apparently has sex with Matt Gaetz under, the pretenses that she is of age, because, of course, she can go around to these bars and whatnot because she's got this ID. She has actually stolen the identity of something else. It makes it very hard to prosecute someone for statutory rape when... Because again, people will say, well, no, you gotta, it doesn't matter if she lies to you. You have to, it's like, well, that's true. The law doesn't protect you if it's simply that, oh, she told me she was 18. But when she has stolen the identity of someone else and presented herself as 18, she's now engaged in a felony. Okay.
Loophole, guys. There you go.
Yep. There you go. So that's what happened. And that's, and that was discovered very early on by the New York Times, but they didn't do him any favors. They did report that when Greenberg was arrested, he was found to be in possession of this ID for this girl who was later turned out to be underage. But they never connected those two. And to this day, so yesterday, I think his name is Micah Schmidt. I referred to him as Nicole Wallace's husband because that's who he is.
Okay.
And he comes out with this story in which they're basically trying to repaint this girl as a victim, right? She's... I'm sorry, honey. If you're 17 years old and you're signing up for a sugardaddy.com website, you're running around, collecting your $400 every time 17 years old, if she had went out and killed somebody, she would have been charged as an adult. Zero issue. Okay. And no, I just don't play that game. You're acting as an adult. You are an adult. For all intents and purposes, I get it that the law doesn't see it like that. No, I'm just not gonna, Matt Gaetz having to hear that he's like a pedo all the time. That's like the number one insult thrown at him. Clearly he's not. She was able to present herself as a woman of age who could drink.
So did he have,
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Well, obviously he says he never had sex with an underage girl.
Okay.
So, according to her, they did have sex twice, one night. Everybody's doing drugs. It's just, one of those.
How long ago was this?
This was 2017. After he's elected. I believe he was elected in 2018. So
was he married, kids at the time?
No.
Okay.
He's like a bachelor in DC. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing drugs. And again, I always.
So he's like Lindsey Graham. He's just.
Yeah, he's just at that time. He's just a party boy. You know? He's a newly elected congressman. Maybe it was summer of 2019. So yeah, he's a newly elected congressman, and I always say, just keep it in your pants, boys, until you actually know her. That said, it's not like this is some. thing that's like out of the ordinary. It's been happening forever. Right?
No, but look, this is where your investigation is interesting because and these are the things that takes me back all the way to Leo Frank. I got interested in that because something smelled off and you're just hearing falsities. So, you dig into it and you find out, okay, there's a bunch of bullshit that's being spread out there. And this is one of those, right? And so there's a reason why that's the case. And so someone wanted to take him down, presumably. Yep. And so success.
Oh, they did. They were very, very successful. And, Gates has some stories about the Zionist lobby. He went to Israel. He took the trip. He just apparently wasn't interested. The other thing about Gates, the problem with him is that his family is very wealthy. He's a lot like Trump.
That's not
in
a
that
problem,
aspect.
is it? You said it's a problem.
Well, it's a problem if you're trying to come up with something to, blackmail.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Everybody's got their vice, right? Most people, it's just money. Especially if you're already a congressman, it becomes money. Some people it's women, some people drugs, things like. Some people it's boys. We all know who we're talking about there. Yeah. But apparently he's a good looking guy, so he doesn't have any problem. He can get his own women, and he didn't need their money, and he had already had his power, right? And I do think that he's a tad idealistic, and obviously that's a problem for Zionists. You can only be idealistic about Zionism for them.
Well, speaking of which, my buddy Magoo here just said Trump just pulled his endorsement at MTG. So there you go.
He did? Yeah.
That's what he's reporting. I don't know. So
I haven't seen that yet. God bless MTG. She senses the way. She's very smart politically. They really screwed her. When I say the Zionist lobby, they did. The Zionist lobby in particular, and I'm going to say the Jewish lobby in particular, just really hate her for some reason. I didn't actually quite get it prior because even quote unquote anti-Zionist Jews hate her. Like they hate her. The whole Jewish space laser thing was a total lie. She never said anything like that. Never. I went back and I found the tweet, or it wasn't a tweet, it was a Facebook post that she made prior to being elected, 2 years before she was elected. And it doesn't say anything about Jewish space lasers. And it actually talks about a real technology. Now, she attributed that technology to being the cause of the fires out there in California at the time. It was like, I don't know if you remember, it was a really shady fire. Just happened to be, she was wrong.
Paradise, I think is where that was.
Right. Yeah. Very scorched earth, like how they did in Maui. Right. And so, but everything she talked about was factually accurate. She didn't say anything, and they extrapolated from that, smeared her as an anti-Semite, saying that she said that the Jews have space lasers, right? The Jews have space lasers. Nothing. She doesn't say anything like that at all whatsoever. And again, it was 2 years before she was elected. And this poor woman had to freaking, they stripped her of her freaking committee assignments. They made her go to New York to like Chabad Lubavitch headquarters, some bullshit like that, and do a whole sit down with a rabbi. It was just nuts, like nuts. All the things that they made her do. I did a big post about this one day. I was so pissed for her. The years later, I had always, I had just kind of like dismissed it as whatever. Everybody says kooky stuff. But then when I found out that she actually didn't even say this at all, like, this is bullshit. This is holy crap. This is nuts that this poor woman had to go through this, And I think at a certain point, I don't know, somewhere along the way, she started following me, and I think her kind of give a fucks went out the window prior to following me, and then she's like, hey, this woman, she's saying some similar stuff. I like it. And I don't know. She's following her moral compass, and God bless her for it. And screw Trump. He's going to pull you. I don't care.
So it sounds like you say follow her moral compass. It sounds like you are her moral compass. Is that what we're getting out of here?
I certainly would not ever position myself.
No,
but
I know.
I
I'm
do
just
think that she and I are similar. We're Southern women with conservative values who are Christian and who are bothered by the pictures of dead babies on our screens. To my knowledge, Marjorie Taylor Greene is still the only member of Congress to have shared a picture from the Gaza Notifications account, which was a video of this precious baby who had had his leg blown off. And no other member of Congress had the guts to share that. And God bless her for it. Because, thousands of babies experienced that. And our country absolutely has been responsible for some of it. We are absolutely responsible for supplying the bombs.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you. So, and then we'll finish on this one.
Yep.
Aguilar, the gentleman that had gone over there, and you interviewed him. He was on with Tucker. I thought it was really good. There were pushbacks against him, and you had done some really good work of actually going to the courthouse, looking at stuff. And by the way, like I said, I'm a family law attorney, so domestic violence restraining orders, all these little things that you're talking about, they just, in my head, they're like, yes, I totally understand. And people can misconstrue all kinds of stuff. So do you think he was, because then later on, he had his uniform on and he was interrupting a congressional hearing. Did he just get like blue or red pilled like to the extreme on this?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I do. I think that the way that they came after him was, I think that honestly, because this is the thing that you just see with all of these Zionists, right? Especially a lot of like your military Zionists. So that's like a whole other section. It's not Jewish, not Christian. These are like straight up, they are devoted to the war on terror.
Well, let me before you go, because I have there's a guy that's in our chat all the time, and he had fought over in the Middle East. So and it's not so much that he's a Zionist, that he has a disdain for the people he was, his brothers were being killed by.
Right.
Do you think that that plays a part of it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You'll see, like, you've got these MC, these motorcycle clubs who the infidels is like a very big one. I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, so I'm around these guys. I know them very. I say I know them, but like I've been around them. I know who they are. I know the ideology. I know how they think. I don't think that they're bad people per se, but I do think that they have actually sacrificed a lot, and they don't. They want to blame somebody. Right. And they
want to justify what happened, right? In a way. And so maybe it's even the Holocaust thing, too. Our boys go over there, World War II. Right. It's horrible. There's all these people. And so you go like, I got to have a reason why we did this. Right. Hey, we saved the world from evil, the most evil.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of that ideology that goes into it. And it's interesting, though, because you talk to these SF guys, like these Green Berets, and some of them are they don't want anything. You can't convince them. They hate all the muzzies, that's what they call them, and it is what it is. And then you got the other Special Forces guys who are extremely thoughtful. They get it. They know it was like a total waste. And they have actually flipped to the other side where they are hardcore. I want to hold our leaders accountable. I don't hate Muslims. I hate this Zionist ideology that has taken a hold of our country, and my brothers died for nothing, And so it's a very split kind of thing. And yeah, I think Aguilar probably started in the former and then ended in the latter by the way he was treated. I think if they had just ignored him, he probably would have gone away pretty quickly, but they didn't. And because what you realize when you're dealing with these Zionists, they just simply cannot have any dissent. They see all of these people as pets, essentially. That and this is why Megyn Kelly has caused such a stir. Her criticism has been it's been so mild. It's not even really been there. No. It's so bizarre.
She called Ben's lie out. And that was blasphemy. I mean, it blew me away that the criticism she got for going in there and saying he sat here, he made this outrageous comment, and I'm not quoting her, and it wasn't true, and it was obviously not true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy, and he that wasn't really the first time she had been targeted. They really, a strategy of theirs, they really want to isolate you. So they demand, and I saw this very early on from like small accounts, demanding that others unfollow me. Why are you still following her? They would go in and they'd see the mutuals. They'd call people out in my mentions. Why are you still following this woman? Yada, yada, yada. People don't do that anymore because, of course, my account has gotten much bigger. But I experienced that very early on. But yeah, they just can't handle any. It's cult. It's like a cult. Is what, once you realize a lot of Zionism is just a cult and cults just don't allow any dissent whatsoever, it all makes sense.
Yeah, and just the last little thing I noticed. So it was Eric Bolling. I don't remember. He is.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so he went on Patrick McDavid. I did a whole show about it because they kept calling him, "Oh, you're a board member. You're a board member." And so then I look it up, and he's not a board member. He's an honorary board member, and it is so dishonest, right? It's like. If I wasn't an attorney and I kept calling myself an attorney, right? It's just, it's not what I am. It's Bill Cosby getting a degree at a college he never went to. That's exactly the kind of thing. And it was gross, and but it's intentional.
Oh yeah, well, it's very bizarre because they said I believe he said that Charlie had not, been on the stage with her in years. And then, of course, it was just a lie. It was just like a flat out lie. You can pull up the July 2024 tour that they did. They did an entire spring 2024 tour together, right? And so it was like, why? Why are you doing this? But, of course, it's just to set this narrative. That didn't work. I mean, Candace just saw it coming a mile away. I mean, she has just single-handedly beat the shit out of every last one of these. It's like 300, like watching her. Like she's like the one woman in this, kind of like in between the mountains, and they're coming at her one by one. And it's been impressive, and definitely motivating. And then today, earlier, and it's starting to crack. So I don't know if you saw Sean Ryan, because here's the thing.
There was something I saw. He did a tweet about something. What?
Yeah. I don't trust any of the only person I actually trust on this is Candace. I do believe I know that she's pure of heart. That's her friend. It was her her, like her family. That said, they know that their lie is just it will not hold up. It's not going to hold up in court. And I think I've always thought that the plan was to convict Tyler Robinson in the court of public opinion and then just kind of Epstein him, right? Just kill him. And that's I called that on. I posted about that on September 13th, the day after he was arrested. This is what they're going to do. Candace has actually thrown that entire plot in the trash, because she has brought so much attention. So everyone is watching, right? And now we see people, just things are starting to crack. Messages, lines. I know what she's doing, the way that she's doing. A lot of people are being very impatient because everyone's like, well, then she needs to say who did it. It's like, actually, no, she doesn't have to do that. She doesn't have to do anything that you're telling her. What she has to do is show that, there's a lot of other people who wanted Charlie dead, and these are the reasons why, okay? And you actually do have to have, if you're not crazy, the motive actually is a thing. I know you don't have to prove it in court, but it is a thing. It is a necessary element for most juries. They need to know why. And what we saw today with Sean Ryan come out, I will read it to you guys real quick because it's kind of big. It's pretty big, actually. Is he says he posted a screenshot of a text message that he received. I don't know who sent it to him, and this is from the Charlie security team, and it's to the UVU security. And yeah, it says this message exchange between Charlie Kirk's head of security and the UVU chief of police regarding the rooftop. And it says, hello, Chief Long. So that's the UVU chief of police. We received this message today from the student group. And here's the message. There is a student roof access pretty close to where CK, Charlie Kirk, will be set up at Utah Valley. The Sorensen Student Center has a couple staircases that go up to the walkways on the roof. Okay? Again, this is how Tyler Robinson, this is where he goes. He accesses, it's a very weird campus. Like, the idea you just get up on the roof is weird to me. Then the UVU chief of police response says, you want roof access? Question mark. Charlie Kirk security replies and says, I was told students have access above us. If this is true, it would be nice to either have a controlled access or allow one of my guys to be there as well, if possible. UVU police officer responds and says, I got you covered. Charlie Kirk security replies and says, thank you, sir. So they're warned that this is a vulnerability, specifically. Okay. And nobody does a damn thing about it. There's no, it's just disappeared. You know, when you're paid millions of dollars, this is your freaking job, right?
It reminds me of the Crooks stuff. And I know Tucker just came out with some stuff of that. I will say that this is, you know, Tyler Robinson wasn't killed, right? So we're going to have presumably a trial. And my hope is that he gets a great defense team, because all these little things that the FBI has put out there, all the little things that have been shown, they're going to have to be able to prove this now. It's in state court. It's not federal. Hopefully, you know, that's my hope. So that when we come down to the end of it, everyone is like, okay, I kind of see the reality of this. Whether it's him, we'll get there. I think we will. Like some of our friend Magoo here says, you know, the narrative is actually backed up by the evidence. Well, I don't know what all the evidence is at this point.
You haven't seen the evidence.
We haven't seen it, and I know that the bullet, the 30-06, it, you know, there's problems. And so we'll get there. And so anyway, that's it. Anyway, Mel, last thing.
I know you gotta go. Yep.
Well, yeah. Tell everyone where to find you. Yep. Everyone says what?
Everyone always says, "Oh, the evidence." It's like, number one, you haven't seen any evidence.
You
have seen what a prosecuting attorney wrote up in a state court filing, and if you've ever read a handful of those, you know that they just lie all the time in those. Okay?
All the time, and the charging document, you know, like the text messages. I'm not seeing screenshots. You know, at least Candace is showing me some screenshots, which I can help. They're going to have metadata. They're going to do everything. And if it's legit, then here we go. Anyway, Mel, I really appreciate you coming on, spending a bunch of time with us. Tell everybody what's coming up next, where to find you, all the good stuff.
Well, I will be dropping some threads this weekend. More on the NAR, good stuff. You guys got to hear some of it. You'll hear a lot more of it if you go follow me. At Village Crazy Lady on X. I have a podcast called Previously Prohibited. We go live on Sunday nights and then usually one day during the week, but we like to keep that a secret until the very last minute because we are unorganized. So, yeah. It is what it is. But Sunday nights, and I host that with Janine Muniz, who is a constitutional lawyer. She works for the American Arab Defamation Council. Prior, she was one of the lead attorneys on the case that sued for Missouri v. Biden, which was what gave us the Twitter files. She is fantastic. She's super knowledgeable. I love her to death. And we have good conversations. We do a lot of foreign policy talk on there. And
so if you guys like this and you want more of the same, definitely follow Mel. Go watch her show. Subscribe to her show on YouTube as well. Yes, get those subs up there. And us, people, sub here onto my Substack. So thank you, everybody. We will see you next week, every Friday. And then Wednesday, we'll try to do our legal stuff. So we're going to have the outro. Mel, if you want to stick around and say bye in the back, you can. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next week.
Stripes and bright stars through
is never mind.